House Republicans are hoping to force a pro-life vote by filing a petition to bypass Democrats and bring the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act to the floor. This has been a continued effort. I'm going to bring in North Carolina Congressman Mark Walker. Congressman, thanks for stopping in.
Always a privilege, Patrick. Thank you.
All right, Congressman, I want to come back to your continued pro-life efforts on the Hill in just a moment. But first, President Trump is warning Republicans leading up to the 2020 election, don't run away from health care. What are you hearing there on the Hill amongst your colleagues about this particular strategy, considering the role that health care potentially played in Republicans losing the House in 2018?
Well, I think you first have to start with the premise that if you have to do something with health care in this particular congressional session, you have to ask the question, why? Did Obamacare not be the end-all for what we were told would be resolving all these crises that we have? I won't get back into all the talking points of all the promises that it didn't fulfill, but you have to say, okay, we have to be brought in now to be able to resolve something that obviously was a failure. The ACA, Obamacare, was a mass failure. So, particularly to your question, there are some varying opinions on this, but here's the bottom line in this. If you weigh into this healthcare arena, you have to ask yourself, is this one more area where you want the government to have complete control of all your health care decisions? It is so far radical that these presidential candidates, not just House members, but even presidential candidates, are now suggesting stripping away the health care, the private health care industry for 160 million Americans. I believe Republicans can put together, as we have in the past, a framework that helps out all Americans. But to say that we need to completely come in and overhaul again, I have a big problem with that.
All right, and one more on this. You mentioned the framework, Congressman Walker. The president is all in on protecting pre-existing conditions. Is this the nexus of that next plan? And if not, what could be the nexus of that upcoming GOP proposal?
We had, as a former chairman of the Republican Study Committee, we had a health care plan that actually provided a path for pre-existing conditions. I have a younger brother who's been blind for 2 decades. I understand there are people that are in these critical conditions. However, what we don't want is continued more gaming of any kind of program that we're looking at accomplishing or implementing. Obamacare is bad, we know that. Now to strip away the health care for more than 150 million people, that's ludicrous.
All right. Well, as we've covered on the show before, you're one of the biggest advocates on the Hill to bring to the floor a vote on the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act. Now, you tweeted yesterday, for those of you working to end infanticide, there's no more noble cause than to fight for those who are defenseless. For these children who have no voice, never stop raising yours. You continued, we will not stop fighting. So as we sit here today, is there a better chance that you're going to get this vote to the floor now compared to the last time we spoke about this on this program?
We do not have currently enough signatures to get it for a vote yet. You need 218 to override Speaker Pelosi in this pro stance on infanticide. Patrick, we're not even talking about pro-life and pro-choice here. We're talking about a baby that's born alive, whether it has the right to be able to have its life sustained or murdered. This is something, and I've talked with a couple of Democrats who want to come across the picket line, so to speak, but they're worried about retaliation. This is ludicrous. I have been in Congress, the United States Congress, for 51 months. There is no easier vote than to say, yes, I am supportive of a baby that survives a botched abortion to be able to have the chance to continue its life. How in the world did we get to such a radical place that that's even a debate?
Well, what's next, Congressman? I mean, you said that there are behind the scenes some Democrats who agree with you. They are afraid of retaliation. They may be looking right at Nancy Pelosi as far as that retaliation goes. But is it possible? I mean, are we reaching the end game here, or are we just in the first or second quarter? You're a sports fan. Are we just starting this?
No, we're in the fourth quarter. The game's not over. we're down by 2 scores, and we need to get the ball back with an onside kick or something to be maybe too much of a sports metaphor.
Right.
Can it be done? It can be. But part of this, and Vice President Pence said this, sometimes when you're in the majority, or when you're in the majority, you legislate. When you're in the minority, you communicate. And we want the American people to know how crazy left that these members that are coming to Washington, D.C. have become. Standing up for this is an easy choice, and it should be every member in that line to make sure they sign that discharge petition to stand up for life. Okay, quickly, I know you're busy, but I want to switch gears on the likelihood that President Trump will shut down the U.S.-Mexico border. Your Republican colleague Mark Meadows said today that it's not the primary option. He does not believe that it will ultimately happen. Is that the consensus there among Republicans? It is the consensus that it's not the primary option. I agree with Mr. Meadows. However, Mr. Trump needs to be applauded that he is not willing to take anything off the table. Sometimes you have to use drastic measures to get people's attention, especially when you have some of these whose heads are buried in the sand that this is actually a crisis. I was so happy to see that former Secretary of the DHS, Jay Johnson, came out and agreed with Secretary Nielsen that this is indeed a crisis. These numbers have doubled and tripled in some cases. So I applaud the president for being willing to do anything that he needs to do to get our attention, to get the Democrats' attention. But I do again come back to full circle saying this isn't the best option, but you can't take anything off the table at this point. Okay, finally, a lot's being said about the president's efforts to set the platform for the 2020 campaign season. He's talked a lot about health care. In one word, what issue will be the 2020 election? What will it be based on in your mind? Well, from our perspective, it might be continue to talk about how out of touch the new Green Deal is. That's one of the things that we can control, as I said, about the messaging. I think the president still wants to drive down some of the pharmaceutical drug costs under the health care guise. And there may still be some things from an infrastructure standpoint the president wants to move across the finish line as well. All right, Congressman Mark Walker of North Carolina, we know you're busy. We know you've been working very hard on that Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. As always, we appreciate you stopping by. Thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.